Antecedent modification. Antecedent modification, when environmental modifications are used to change the conditions in the setting that prompt a learner with ASD to engage in an interfering behavior. Dun, da, da, da. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why we do jargon, because even now I know what an antecedent modification is, and I read that, and I'll be honest with you, I just want to light my hair on fire and run screaming in the street and go, what? What are you talking about? I don't even know what that means. Okay, so let's continue on to our working definition, and let's make some BCBAs break out in hives, shall we? Okay, antecedent modification. Changing what happens before a behavior happens for the purpose of preventing the behavior. Okay, so we've talked before about antecedents, that when we're talking about behavior, I call it the ABCs of behavior. They call it the three-term contingency. More jargon, right? Okay, but just think of the ABCs. We all know our ABCs, or we know at least the beginning of it, right? A, B, C. So in behavior, the A stands for antecedent. And what that means, don't get scared, antecedent means what happened before, right? That's been one of our jargon terms for a while. What happened before? Because something happened. We always think it didn't. You know, the child engages in a behavior and we think that behavior popped out of thin air, fully formed. It didn't. Something happened, and then the B is the behavior and the C is the consequence, right? And this is not just in autism. This is in everyday life. There is always an A, a B, and a C. The example I always like to use is that every day you and I, at some point, we're doing something and we stop what we're doing and we get up and we walk over and we turn on a light switch, right? And why do we do that? There was an antecedent. Something happened. We were struggling to read, or we walked into the room. Something happened though. We didn't just suddenly, out of nowhere, randomly decide to turn on a light switch. We needed some light. So the behavior was we flicked the light switch. And what was the consequence? Light filled the room, right? And if you stop and think about it, how many thousands of times every day do you engage in an ABC moment? We all do it thousands of times a day. So do individuals who are on the autism spectrum, whether they are 11 months old or 111, right? So we look at these things, and when we're dealing with a challenging behavior, we specifically look at them and go, well, what happened before and what happened afterwards? We look at what the actual behavior is and we try to figure out what the function of the behavior is, because the truth of the matter is that we get all concerned about the behavior. He's lining up cars. He's hitting his head on the kitchen floor. She's scratching herself. You know, I mean, there's millions of different things that an individual could engage in that we would term a challenging behavior, right? And we get all excited and nervous and anxious about the actual behavior. The truth of the matter is that we all have that scary moment at some time. Usually it's in public, like in a grocery store, when you realize, oh my gosh, they're engaging in the behavior and there's not a whole lot I can do, right? Because physically, once somebody's engaging in a behavior, what are your choices, right? Physically restrain them, that's never a fun choice, right? But when we learn the techniques of ABA, we learn, oh, I have some control over what happens before, and I have a whole lot of control about what happens as a consequence. And that if we monkey with the antecedent, which is what happens before, or we monkey with the consequence, we have a whole lot of power over that behavior. We really, really do. So when we're working with BCBAs, board certified behavior analysts, and other experts having to do with autism, a lot of times they will say, oh, we're going to put in place an antecedent modification. That means we look at what happens before and we do something different.